Hey everyone, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
We are plunging into a deep dive today on a book that, well, it fundamentally reframed global anxieties for millions.
It really did make waves.
Yeah, I mean, forget the traditional threats for a minute, nuclear war, pandemics, all that.
Yeah.
What if the biggest, the most insidious threat facing humanity isn't destruction, but just utter pervasive irrelevance?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? And that chilling premise is really the foundation of our source material today. Yuval Noah Harari's 2018 work, it's nonfiction global history philosophy,
Right,
21 lessons for the 21st century.
right.
And it's a landmark because it completed what lots of people call the Harari trilogy, following Sapiens, which looked back, and Homo Deus, which looked way forward.
Okay.
And just a quick note for listeners, if you want the specific text we're digging into, the Amazon link is in the description.
Perfect. And the genius of this book, I think, is how it shifts focus. It's not about the distant past or the far future. It's about the urgent, messy here and now.
Exactly. His stated mission, and this is what makes it so compelling, I think, is providing clarity. Clarity in a world that's just absolutely drowning in noise and information overload.
Yeah, is that great line?
Yeah, in a world deluged by irrelevant information, clarity is power. That's the core principle.
And that search for clarity clearly resonated. It was an instant bestseller.
Oh, absolutely. People loved how he took these huge, complex topics, history, biology, data science, politics, and just synthesized them into one, well, pretty accessible narrative.
He gives a framework, right, for all these overwhelming anxieties we feel.
Exactly. It's like he gives shape and structure to it all, which is honestly a powerful psychological service in itself.
But, and this is crucial for our deep dive, the dazzling synthesis is precisely where the pushback comes in. The academic critique,
Ah, yes, the Harari paradox.
the Harari paradox. While the public sees him as this visionary, academic critics often label him a science populist.
Right. They argue he sometimes sacrifices scholarly rigor, the deep nuances, for the sake of a really powerful, gripping story.
And maybe recycles a bit from his earlier books, presents speculative ideas as kind of settled fact.
That's the charge, yeah. It's that tension, isn't it, between the brilliant storyteller and the demands of strict academic scholarship.
Mm.
We need to be mindful as we go through this where the solid data might end and the, let's say, dramatic extrapolation begins.
Okay, good point. So let's start with the context. Why this book? Why then? It didn't just appear out of nowhere in 2018.
No, definitely not. Reading it, it's so clear he's responding directly to the massive shocks of that 2016-2018 period. The zeitgeist, you could call it.
You mean politically?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a world kind of reeling from the visible collapse of the old liberal story. You had the rise of these aggressive nationalist movements, think Trump's America First.
Brexit chaos.
The agonizing Brexit chaos, exactly. And the steady consolidation of power by figures like Putin and Xi Jinping. You could feel the established global order cracking.
And technology-wise, this was also a key moment, right? The tech lash.
Oh, peak tech clash. It was the moment everyone suddenly realized the internet wasn't just this friendly tool connecting people. It could be, a potential weapon.
And didn't the Cambridge Analytica story break right around then?
Precisely. Early 2018, just as Harari was likely finalizing the book, it was the perfect, concrete example for his warnings about big data watching you.
It made it real.
It made it real. It was proof that these systems were already being used to hack human beings, weaponizing our own psychology against us.
So Harari's central thesis emerges from that soup. Humanity is kind of trapped in a nihilist moment. The old stories, liberalism, nationalism, they're collapsing.
Right, they don't feel convincing anymore.
And we don't have a new shared story yet. And this is happening just as we face these unprecedented global threats.
And the engine driving that confusion, that bewilderment, Harari argues, is fundamentally technological. It's what he calls the merger of infotech and biotech.
Okay, this feels like the core of his argument. This merger isn't just about new gadgets.
No, much deeper than that.
It's about giving companies, governments, the power to actually hack the human operating system itself. What does that mean for us, the individuals?
Well, Harari lays out three, frankly, terrifying core threats. These go beyond traditional politics. They hit right at the heart of what it means to be human.
Okay, let's break them down. You mentioned the first one right at the start, mass irrelevance.
Yeah. He predicts AI and automation won't just cause unemployment, but will create a massive new useless class.
Useless class. That's a harsh term.
It is. He means people who are economically redundant, not just exploited for their work, but simply not needed by the system.
Wow.
And he has this quote that just captures the psychological weight of it. It is much harder to struggle against irrelevance than against exploitation.
Okay, wait. That feels dangerous as a thesis.
Mm-hmm.
If you label millions useless, doesn't that let the system off the hook? Isn't there a policy choice here, or is he saying it's just inevitable?
He mostly presents it as a likely outcome, unless there are massive societal interventions like universal basic income or something similar. But he's skeptical that will happen, especially with nationalism rising.
And the consequences, political invisibility.
Exactly. If the system doesn't need you, how do you even protest? How do you organize? You just don't count anymore.
Okay, so invisibility is threat number one. What's the second? Something about liberty collapsing. The end of liberty.
This is where the hacking gets personal. Harari's argument is that as algorithms fed by big data, biometric sensors, your smartwatch tracking your heart rate, your stress levels, as these algorithms learn your internal biochemical processes, they will eventually know you better than you know yourself.
Creepy.
And if they can predict your desires, your choices, more accurately than you can, well, then the whole idea of free will starts to look like a scientific myth, a useful story we told ourselves.
Makes you think twice about clicking accept all cookies, doesn't it? Is this happening now, or is it still sci-fi?
He'd say it's happening incrementally. Think about those hyper-personalized political ads or health apps that predict your mood based on data.
Right.
Authority shifts. When the algorithm knows the optimal choice for you, the best job, the right partner, does authority stay with you, the person feeling things, or does it move to the algorithm processing the data?
And that's the path to
What he calls digital dictatorships. Systems that manage and optimize human emotions, not necessarily through force, but through nudges and predictions, keeping everything stable and controlled.
Okay, so economically redundant and losing authority over our own minds. Great. What's the third one? The inequality prediction sounds even more dystopian.
It's this biological inequality. And honestly, this is where that Harari paradox, the critique of maybe going too far, really comes into play.
Okay.
Harari warns that because this merger of AI and bioengineering could eventually allow for cognitive upgrades, maybe even significantly extended lifespans.
Right stuff of science fiction.
Then wealth inequality could translate directly into biological inequality. Only the rich can afford the enhancements.
Creating different types of humans.
Potentially, yes. He talks about the risk of the speciation of humankind, separating the enhanced, maybe Homo Deus, from the regular, unupgraded Homo sapiens.
That really does sound like narrative trumping rigor. Is there actual data pointing towards speciation, or is this more of a, shocking extrapolation to make us pay attention?
It's definitely sensational, no doubt, but it's an extrapolation based on current trends. If intelligence itself becomes something engineerable, then the key resource becomes the data needed to do that engineering.
Ah, hence the maxim.
Those who own the data own the future.
Exactly. He sees speciation not as guaranteed, but as a serious risk if we don't put some ethical and political brakes on this technological acceleration.
So if this is the technological landscape, our old political frameworks, the ones from the 19th, 20th centuries, they seem completely inadequate. Structurally inadequate, yeah, because they operate at the wrong scale. Harari hammers this point. The biggest threats we face, nuclear war, ecological collapse, this tech disruption, they're fundamentally global.
They require global answers.
They require global governance, global cooperation.
And yet, we're seeing this huge resurgence of nationalism everywhere.
Which Harari pretty much dismisses as an escapist indulgence.
Ouch.
He sees it as providing comforting local answers to problems that are planetary in scope. His point is pragmatic. Global problems need global answers. Nationalism is just not on the right level to tackle the problems.
So focusing on national borders or economies prevents real action on climate change or AI safety.
That's his argument. It distracts from the scale that actually matters for survival.
But hold on, doesn't that kind of ignore the real human need for identity, for community, the things that nationalism, even flawed nationalism, often taps into?
It potentially does, yeah. Harari is focused primarily on functional utility here. He does acknowledge that humans need shared myths, shared fictions, to cooperate at scale.
Which leads to his famous point about us being a post-truth species.
Exactly, that our unique power as Homo sapiens comes from creating and believing fictions, whether that's a nation, a religion, money, human rights. The issue isn't the fiction itself. It's when the fiction becomes counterproductive or self-destructive on a global scale.
He also takes aim at the idea of a clash of civilizations, right?
Yeah, he argues that's fundamentally wrong. He contends humanity already operates as a single, interconnected global civilization. We share science, economics, medicine,
So our conflicts are
more like civil wars
yeah.
within this one global system, fought over which particular fiction or ideology should dominate.
And figures like Trump or Zuckerberg, they're not masterminds pulling strings.
Not in his view. He sees them more as archetypes, manifestations of deeper impersonal forces like the breakdown of old narratives or the unchecked power of technology. It reinforces his theme of limited individual agency in the face of these massive trends.
Okay, so if the external world politics, big stories, is chaotic and maybe collapsing under tech pressure, where does Harari tell us to look for stability? It comes back to the individual, doesn't it? Internal.
Precisely. The final sections of the book pivot really strongly from this huge global diagnosis to a very personal, individual prescription.
And step one is?
Mental humility. Just acknowledge your own ignorance. Start there. We all suffer from what he calls the knowledge illusion.
The knowledge illusion.
Yeah, we think we know a lot because we're part of a group that collectively knows a lot. But individually, we know very little. So admitting that ignorance is the essential first step toward clarity.
Makes sense. And if the world outside is changing so fast, what's the key skill we need?
Reinvention. Constant reinvention. Harari really stresses that education needs a total overhaul. It's not about cramming facts anymore. Facts change too fast. AI can hold facts.
So what should it be about?
It needs to focus on mental flexibility, emotional balance, and what people often call the 4 C's: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity.
The things AI struggles with.
Exactly. Those are the resilient skills. You need to be ready to constantly learn, adapt, maybe have multiple careers throughout your life. Reinvent yourself again and again.
And all this leads to his final lesson, the one drawn from his own personal practice.
Yes. Harari is quite open about being a longtime practitioner of Vipassana meditation, and he explicitly brings this in as the ultimate defense.
There it is.
The ultimate lesson for resisting manipulation, especially digital manipulation, is simple. Get to know yourself before they do, before the corporations and governments with their algorithms do.
Get to know yourself. For those unfamiliar, what kind of self-observation is he talking about? Is it just thinking about yourself?
No, it's more specific. It's the practice of observing your own mind and body directly, watching your physical sensations, your feelings, your desires, your aversions as they arise and pass away without reacting to them.
So you see how your own mind works?
Exactly. You start to understand how your feelings and desires are constructed, whether it's biochemical processes or external triggers. If you understand the mechanism, you're far less likely to be manipulated by an algorithm designed to push those specific emotional buttons. It's like an inoculation against the hack.
That's a powerful connection, tying global tech fears back to individual mindfulness. Okay, so let's try and synthesize this for the listener. The book's huge strength is this ability to connect the dots, right? To synthesize complexity, give us terms like useless class, knowledge illusion.
Vocabulary for our anxieties.
Exactly. But that very synthesis is what fuels the critique, the charges of oversimplification, maybe technological determinism, presenting AI as this unstoppable force rather than perhaps a series of political and ethical choices we're making right now.
It absolutely forces you to look at things differently, even when his conclusions feel extreme or provocative. You know, his take on terrorism is a classic example.
Ah, right. He
says, terrorism is a form of theater. It's not about the body count, which is usually small compared to other forms of violence. It's about the psychological impact, the fear it generates, and crucially, the state's often self-damaging overreaction to that fear. That's what gives terrorism its power.
That kind of reframing, that clarifying, challenging insight, that's what makes the book so essential, I think. Even if you end up disagreeing with parts of it, like this speciation idea, perhaps.
Agreed. It's urgent, it's provocative, and it's really necessary reading for grappling with our current global moment.
Definitely. And we've really only scratched the surface here. There are so many more specific details, facts, and arguments in the book itself, so it's absolutely worth your time to read it.
For sure.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive today. If you found this conversation useful, please do like, subscribe, and maybe share it with others who might be interested.
And we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What were your key takeaways? Did anything particularly resonate or challenge you?
Yeah, definitely let us know.
And as you mull over these big themes, technology, identity, power, the future, we want to leave you with 5 provocative questions, drawn straight from the book's challenges to keep you thinking.
Okay, first, Harari argues that global problems need global answers.
Yeah.
But we see nationalism surging everywhere. Is a shared global identity actually essential for our survival now, or is that just a utopian fantasy that will never beat our tribal instincts?
Second, the book predicts algorithms will know us better than we know ourselves, leading us to outsource big life decisions, career, marriage, etc. If an algorithm could genuinely make a better choice for you, would you let it? Should you? Where's the line between optimizing your life and surrendering your humanity?
Third, Harari's ultimate advice is know thyself, through things like meditation before the algorithms hack you. But in our attention economy designed to constantly distract us, is that a realistic solution for most people? Or is it a kind of privileged answer that puts the burden of resisting huge systems onto the individual?
Fourth, Harari contends that all the big stories giving life, meaning religion, nationalism, humanism, are ultimately fictions. If he's right, can societies function without these shared myths? Is a life based purely on observing suffering and impermanence, as he seems to suggest, actually fulfilling? Or do we need the knowledge illusion to be happy?
And finally, number 5. Does Harari's argument that Homo sapiens is a post-truth species actually help us? Does it excuse the flood of fake news and disinformation we see now, or does it offer a deeper, tougher framework for understanding why we're so vulnerable and what it will really take to fight back?
Lots to think about there. We look forward to hearing your thoughts. We'll see you next time.